Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. We are rejoined with Vincent Turner, our co-host and founder, and Brian LeBel is our producer and engineer this morning. Vincent, you had a couple of things with family and friends to take care of. We missed you last week.
Hey, I want to say first and foremost, y'all did a very excellent job. I think it was one of the best weeks here in 100 Yards Football. Kudos to you, Mr. LeBel, for your leadness. You was very on fire, as we say in my hometown in Memphis, Tennessee. To the producers, Logan Landers and Jeremiah Long, outstanding job. To Mr. Brian LeBel, did an outstanding job. And the guest, Mr. Dave Hoffman, UW, thank you. I'm glad to be back. Had an excellent time at home. Saw moms. She's doing very well. Everybody's in a very good mood. It's Memphis in May where barbecue is at the top of the list. So all you people that's trying to call me to invite you to your house today, don't try, because Memphis still has one of the top barbecue spots in the world. Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
Yes, they do. And if you're not at Rendezvous, you're not in Memphis, are you?
One of the top spots in the country.
I know. Well, happy Memorial Day to everybody for obvious reasons. Today's Memorial Day. We want to honor those who gave everything for this country, and your service is certainly greatly appreciated. It's more than barbecues. It's more than outdoor gatherings. It's a time to recollect and to pay some honor and respect to those who gave their lives for our country. So we want to make sure that we honor that today, this Memorial Day. But Vincent, today we're going to talk about a couple of great players that were involved, and these are kind of 80 guys. I played against both of them. They're fantastic football players, and we're going to start today with Chris Spielman. Christopher, that's his middle name. Charles Christopher Spielman, born on October 11th, 1965 in Ohio. He's from Massillon, Ohio, and his early days were marked with just, having a lot of fun, enjoying the game, playing multiple sports. But eventually when he gets into high school, he becomes a football player. But he's a smart kid too. He wins his senior year. He wins the Dial Award, which is for a scholar athlete. So he takes the brains and the brawn and mixes it together and is able to have a great high school career, good enough to obviously be recruited by several different schools. And let's talk at the very beginning here of when Chris really found his niche with high school football.
I think when you look at Chris Spielman, one thing you got to understand is that you take a young man that makes the box of the Wheaties, man. That was huge in our day. Very huge. He's the first, I believe, high school player ever.
Ever, yeah.
And the pressure of that going to a school like Ohio State and then having a fabulous career. But what I love about him most of all, not only is he a great football player, man, coming from high school, college, but he's also an outstanding human being. And remember this, when you're a young man and you're 18 years old and you're on the box of the Wheaties, everybody looking at you. You're on everybody's radar. And you're only 18 years old. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, he got the kind of not quite a mullet, but he's got the 80s porn stash going. But Chris played well enough in high school, Washington High School in Massillon, and I mentioned he wins the Dial Award, and that, for obvious reasons, is really an important portion of who and what he is. But one of the things is he was recruited to go to Michigan, and he comes back from the trip and he says, "Dad, I'm going to be a Wolverine. I want to go to Michigan." And his dad was a diehard Ohio State fan. He says, "Don't you dare go to Ohio or to Michigan. You're going down the street, I-71. You're going to go to Columbus and you're going to play for the Buckeyes, or you're never going to come back in this family. You're not going to be able to come back for Thanksgiving, for Halloween, for Christmas. Forget it." So he switches his mind and he changes it, and he ends up going to Ohio State. What a great decision that was for him to join the Buckeyes. Earl Bruce was the head coach back in those days, but some really good teams that they had. A couple of bowl games for obvious reasons. The Cotton Bowl is the biggest one, but they struggled against Michigan in 3 of those 4 years. And the Ohio State Buckeye experience is where Chris ends up. He changes his number. He goes to 36, and he lights it up, though. Freshman year doesn't play a whole heck of a lot of special team stuff, but his sophomore year, he starts to see the field. And his junior year is really the difference maker for me, the one where he was really able to establish himself all Big Ten, All-American consideration, and really put together the type of career that might get him in the position where he can play on Sundays.
You judge by what other people say about you, especially your head coaches. Earl Bruce, who was the head coach at Ohio State at that time, said he was the best football player I ever been around and ever coached. Then think about his time at the Ohio State Buckeyes. The people he played with. You mentioned his freshman year, he was behind a guy that won the Super Bowl ring with the New York Giants by the name of Pepper Johnson. But think about some of the teammates that was on the squad these years at Ohio State. Chris Carter, William White, Sonny Gordon, George Cooper, Vince Workman, John Sullivan, all great football players at Ohio State. But since his dad didn't want him to go to Michigan, and let's keep it honest, Mr. Spielman, Chris wanted to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
But in '86, his junior year, probably the best game of any college football linebacker out there ever in the history of college football, 26 tackles against Michigan. And you know who's at quarterback? Jim Harbaugh. They had a receiver by the name of Greg McMurphy. But I remember Chris early on when he started as sophomore against LSU when he came to SEC country. And I believe he had a 12 tackle game live on CBS, the game of the week. This gentleman was really made for stardom. And I think when we talk about him today and when we go away from this interview, think about the pressure. How you had to have yourself really mentally ready to play at another level. The guy made the Wheatie box. I'm going to say it one more time, and then went to Ohio State and had some of the best games ever as a college football linebacker. And then you look at the 1987 All-American team, first team. You had Chad Hennings, Air Force, Tracy Rocker, Auburn, Dante Jones, Oklahoma, John Roper, Texas A&M. Kudos to you, Coach Sherrill. Ricky Dixon, the late Ricky Dixon at Oklahoma. And you had a guy by the name of Deion Sanders, your former teammate at Florida State. And Chris Spielman was first team with all those guys. And when it's all said and done, he might have been the most talented player on the All-American team that year. Back to you, Hall.
Yeah, great career at Ohio State. And I mentioned the junior year, and they started out 0-2. They lose to number 5 Alabama. Then they go to Washington, and they lose to the Huskies. It was 40-7. They're 0-2, and it does not look very good at all. But they end up winning 9 in a row. They beat Colorado, Utah, Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, Minnesota. They go to Iowa, and they were ranked number 11 at the time. And going to Kinnick Stadium, that's not easy for anybody to do. But they end up winning that game. They beat Northwestern and Wisconsin. They lose to Michigan at home in front of 90,000 fans. But they're able to go to the Cotton Bowl. They play against A&M. They beat them. The final is 28-12. And really establish themselves as, you know what, we're a pretty doggone good team. They finished in the top 10. They ended up number 7. But winning the Cotton Bowl really, and having a great junior year, really established Chris as, you know what, we're gonna have everything that we need for my senior year. But that didn't turn out to be a great one. They didn't go to a bowl game. They were 6-4-1. They were 4-4 in the Big Ten. They finished right in the middle of the pack. Michigan State, Iowa, and Michigan and Indiana all finished above them in terms of just the rankings and how they finished in conference play. So kind of disappointing. You mentioned that LSU team that they played in Baton Rouge. They lose to Indiana at home. They lose to Michigan State and Wisconsin and Iowa, but they beat Michigan in that rivalry game, and that kind of salvaged it for Chris, but had a great career while he was there at Ohio State. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves, but it was basically, you know, the draft and getting himself ready for pro football after that.
Well, he got drafted by the Detroit Lions, and he went to an organization that fit his personality, man. When you think about the Motor City, you think Motown, you think hard-nosed football players. Alex Karras, Lynn Barney, Dick Night Train Lane. Chris Spielman was made to be a Detroit Lion. And I think he left the organization as the all-time leading tackler in franchise history, if I'm recollecting with my memory. But boy, he was a special player with the Lions. And even though the Lions didn't have a lot of winning seasons when he was there, but when you turned on and watched the highlights where it was ESPN with Chris Berman, or you watching CBS or NBC, Chris Spielman was on a lot of tackles, and he played at a high level. That's the thing about playing middle linebacker, especially when you get to the next level. That's the thing they say, roaming the middle. What that means, I'm looking for meat, the running backs. Back to you, Hop.
Well, he was part of a draft class that had 7 Hall of Famers, multiple Pro Bowlers. He was a second-round pick. Benny Blades was the number 1 pick for Detroit that year. So obviously putting him in the backfield along with Chris, defense first was what they were drafting for there in 1988. But Dermondy Dawson, Thurman Thomas, Eric Allen, Randall McDaniel, Michael Irvin, Sterling Sharp, and Tim Brown were all a part of that Hall of Fame class from the 1988 draft class. Gets to be a part of that. And you mentioned him going to Detroit, and they got close. They played in the 1991. So what's that? Chris's 3rd or 4th year in the league. They end up playing. They got Barry Sanders. For obvious reasons, there's a couple of guys offensively that were able to do some things from an offensive perspective. They were 12-4. They end up going. They won their first playoff game. Then they go in the NFC Championship game. They play at Washington. Now, 91, I was with the Falcons. I got hurt, but the Falcons beat New Orleans in the playoffs and advanced to play in the division against Washington. It was a colder, rainy day, and they had watered the field the day before during a walkthrough. Everybody noticed how wet the field was. But Washington, they all go on to be the Super Bowl champions. But Chris was a part of a great team that, you think that the sky's the limit in Wayne Fonts, and they're going to put it together. And really very few playoff appearances after that for the Lions. They really struggled there. And Wayne Fonts was trying to put together a team that indoors, they ran that run and shoot type offense. The red gun is what the Falcons call it. Very similar. Mouse Davis and June Jones had come from Detroit. They bring that offense to Atlanta, but they keep it there in Detroit. And at home, it's great, but on the road, they really struggled. And for obvious reasons, Chris's great career was hampered a little bit by injuries too, Vincent. Obviously, that was the biggest thing. He hurt his neck, and injuries ended up slowing him down. Otherwise, he was a leader for Detroit, a Pro Bowler, and a guy that everybody in the league said, man, you better block that dude. Otherwise, you're going to have some trouble.
What's really amazing to me is we talk about this great young football player out of Ohio that he's not even talking about in the Hall of Fame conversation. As I said to you earlier, a few seconds ago, he left as Detroit Lions all leader in tackles. And that franchise has had some great defensive players. He played with arguably the best running back ever to play this game. But the one thing I respect about Mr. Chris, and I'm going to call him Mr. Chris today, is that he was consistent. Pro Bowls. I believe he went to, 7, 8 Pro Bowls. But to play in an organization in Detroit and you're not winning a lot and you're still consistent, that's what I call leadership. That's why I give Chris Spielman, if you want to talk about a skill set, leadership should come high to level him with an A+ grade. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, in 1988, he joins the Lions. He stays there until 1995. He has 2 years with Buffalo, and then he takes a year off. Part of the injuries that he was going through and slowing down, the Lions decided to move on, so to speak. But free agency had kicked in, and Buffalo pays him nicely. But he had an issue where his first wife ends up 4 times she battles and beats cancer. She lost that 5th battle. And Chris had 4 children with her. Her name is Stephanie. So he loses his wife. He still tries to get back into the league. He plays a year with Cleveland, so really an 11-year career, but marked a little bit with tragedy, obviously, and some things that happened personally in his life. He tried one more year he didn't play another year, but he was a coach for the Columbus Destroyers in the indoor league. But then he got a front office job. But after he was done playing, he ends up joining the Fox sports team and then works with ESPN and then does some NFL games. So his broadcasting career really, it began in 1999 after he was done with the Browns. But kudos for him for being articulate, being able to talk, have a little bit of intensity, as you mentioned, Vincent, but be able to stay close to the game and be a part of it on a national level. He wasn't with Pat Summerall and John Madden. That's the elite status, the number 1 team. but he was at least on the team, and he got a chance to participate for years. College, the college Saturday football show that he was a part of with Fox Sports, and just really enjoying a career afterwards and making some pretty good money talking about the game afterwards in broadcasting.
Let's make no mistake, the guy was pretty good, man. He was good. And based on his tragedy, losing his first wife, being able to transition over into the booth and be at a high level announcing games, I enjoyed him on them broadcasts as well as either college or the NFL. I thought he was good. I got a lot of respect for him. And a guy that's awfully strong mentally and within his heart. To lose somebody close and you've had 4 children with him, that's pretty tough. And then continuously go on and be very stable and continue your career. That speaks volumes about what type of individual this young man is. Out of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, he worked with Dick Stockton, Tom Brenneman, Charles Davis was another that he would do shows with. Sometimes they'd have 3 guys in the booth. He remarries in 2013. His new wife, Carrie, she has 2 daughters. So basically now he's the Brady Bunch. He's got 6 kids and is getting his life back together. In 2020, he ends up having some conversations. And in 21, he gets hired by the Detroit Lions as an assistant to the president. He's an executive level guy, front office guy, and he's been working with the Lions ever since. Dan Campbell, Ron Wood, trying to put a team together that everybody would respect, appreciate, and want to come and see. And I think they've done a fantastic job. Dan Campbell obviously has really turned everything around in Detroit, the culture, the history. You honor the past in many respects, but you change the way that you're going to do things from here on out. And Dan was able to do that. Chris was a part of that in the transition process. There is some talk, have to count it as a rumor, but as recently as just, maybe a week from now, he might end up going back to Ohio State. There's some conversation that I've become a part of that it's still a rumor. So just take it for what it's worth, folks, is that he might return to coaching and go back to Ohio State. There might be a position for him there. That would certainly be an honor for him to return back to his alma mater. But there's also some really good work that he's trying to finish and finalize and take the Lions and get them that first Lombardi trophy. That would be obviously something that would forever be a mark. That would be something you would want next to your resume, or at least included in that. Give us some final thoughts here about Chris Spielman, Vincent.
Success on every level. At Ohio State, as a player with the Detroit Lions. Now look what the Lions have done, him being an executive in the organization. They are, and last year was the #1 seed in the NFC. What more can you say? And then him going back to Ohio State. One thing about any school that you're a part of, that brings memories back when you're young, man. Like I'm a University of Arkansas graduate, and I always go back to the first day I was on campus and they were calling the Hogs. Same with you, Hawk. I know first time you stepped on the campus at Colorado State. Them memories not going to leave. So, of course, you're going to go back to where you started. Mr. Chris Spielman, I can understand why you want to be a Buckeye. So my final thoughts with you. Back to you, Hawk.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times. What a tremendous song, great band, and being a part of that is certainly something that he might be tempted by. And it wouldn't be about the money. It would be about a chance to go back home and kind of serve your school. He ended up with 1,363 tackles in the National Football League, 10.5 sacks. He had 13 fumble recoveries. He forced 13 fumbles, recovered 19, 6 interceptions in his career. He's in the College Hall of Fame. He's a first-team All-Pro in 1991, second-team All-Pro on 2 different levels. He went to 4 different Pro Bowls. He was the rookie. He was on the Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie team. He is a member of the Pride of the Lions, their Ring of Honor, 75th anniversary team. He's on the Detroit Lions all-time team as well. Unanimous All-American in 1987, a consensus All-American in 86. He won the Lombardi and the Chick Harley Award in 1987. And he was a first team All Big Ten athlete in 1985, 86, and 87. He's a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. He is Chris Spielman. So we want to say thank you for all that he was able to do for college and professional football from a player and an executive level, and even as a coach. So for Vincent Turner, for Brian LeBel, and for me, Harper LeBel, I want to say thank you for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you joining us on 100 Yards of Football. This has been our Legend Show. Have a fantastic day, everybody.